Hi, welcome back to another video nobody asked for. I'm Sarah and today I'm going to be talking about growing up a pastor's kid. So this may take a while, so I'm just going to jump right into it. So the thing about my parents is while they were very strict, there were no actual rules. Like there was no list of rules we had to follow. If my parents didn't want us to do something, we weren't allowed to do it. No questions asked. For example, we couldn't go to friends' houses or friends' birthday parties growing up unless my parents knew them. Now, mind you, I don't really think that necessarily is a bad thing. You know, as a parent, I would think you'd want to know the parents of the people your kids are hanging out with, but it's not like my parents would ever make an effort to get to know other parents. It's just like, oh yeah, we don't know them, so you're not going over their house, and that's that. So friends' birthday parties, just a regular hangout at a friend's house, wasn't a thing that really happened growing up. I already knew if I was invited to go to a birthday party, I'd have to decline. If I was invited to go to a friend's house, I'd have to decline. Because I already knew that even if I tried to ask my parents, it wasn't going to happen. Another thing that they didn't allow us to do was go to dances, because my dad didn't like dirty dancing, so he didn't want us attending dances. So no prom, no homecoming, no formals, no Valentine's Day dance, if there ever was any of that. Yeah, no, it just wasn't gonna happen because, you know, if you're gonna go, obviously, you know, you're gonna participate in dirty dancing, and that's not gonna happen. I mean, that didn't really keep me from going to dances. I only went to 2 dances. A dance in 6th grade at the end of the year, and the only reason I was able to go to that was because it was during school, so of course, that made things a lot easier. And then the second one was actually prom, which to this day my dad still doesn't know that I was in attendance. Let's keep it that way. I mean, I don't really care. I'm 23 now. It's been years. But the fact that I had to hide that from my parents is really disappointing, because usually parents are one of the first people to know that their kids are going to go to prom, and they take pictures and whatnot. So the fact that, you know, I had to try to hide that it's really disappointing. But it's whatever. It's okay. I don't even care. Like, genuinely, I don't. I'm not even just saying that. And another thing with my parents is that sometimes they would just say we couldn't do things based on how they felt. For example, my brother was around like 23. He came home at like 11, 12 o'clock at night, and my dad was like, you don't know the rules, you guys aren't supposed to come home anytime after 10. And I'm just like, since when? This is the first rules. We have rules in this? I've never heard of any rules. At the time I was living on campus, and I would come home every other weekend, so I'm like, this must be a very new development, because I wasn't made aware of this. And as it turns out, it wasn't even a rule that my dad made. It was just, he was upset that my brother came home at a time that he didn't approve of. So he's just like, yeah, so I'm just going to pull this rule out of thin air and say, you guys aren't allowed to come home anytime after 10. And act like this is some normal thing. That's always been a thing. Another example of this is me getting hounded for going to the movies. So one time, a couple years ago, I went to the movies with friends, and when I come home, I get in so much trouble over this, which is, I mean, I was an adult at the time. I was 20. I wasn't some little teeny bopper teenager running around acting reckless. I didn't even come home at an unreasonable time either. I came home around 8. My dad makes a huge deal out of the fact that I went to the movies. Now, mind you, it's never been a problem in the past. Like, us going to the movies has never been a problem in the past. And one time after that, my dad pointed out a movie theater, said, you've been there before, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he didn't seem to have a problem with it then. I'm not sure why that particular day, me going to the movies, was this huge deal. He was like, oh, first they take you to the movies, then they take you to the club. But nearly a year later, he was like, oh, you've been there? Oh, okay. Like it wasn't a problem a year later. I don't understand why I was shamed for going to the movies, but whatever. I don't get that I was practically threatened to be kicked out over some movies, over seeing Spider-Man Homecoming. And speaking of being shamed, my parents will sometimes, or lots of times, not sometimes, this is like a regular thing, they'll like shame us for just living. So my parents have shamed us for numerous things, like hanging out with friends. There have been so many times in my adult life, like after the age of 18, because when I was younger, I didn't hang out with friends outside of school because I already knew my parents wouldn't let me. I'd ask and they would be no, and that would be that. After I turned the age of 18, I started to hang out with friends outside of school, which was great. And there have been so many times where I would be shamed for this, like the movie example. And my friends are unfairly judged. Like, my parents will automatically assume that my friends must be bad people. You don't know them. You've never met them. How do you know they're bad people? You don't know their values. And I think it's ridiculous that you're just going to automatically assume that because I'm leaving the house that I'm automatically doing something bad. Ridiculous. The lack of trust they had in me when I never really gave them much of a reason not to trust me. Granted, I'm not the best child ever, and I have been a bit rebellious, but I think part of my rebellion has come from the fact that my parents are strict. And like, when I say rebellious, I mean I just hide basic things from my parents. Like, sometimes there have been plenty of times where I'll leave the house and I don't tell my parents where I'm going because I already know it's gonna be this big song and dance. I'm like, I'd rather just go. Now, one prominent way that my parents, well, specifically my dad, will shame people is through prayer. Now, my dad being a pastor, he will pray out loud. That's typically how he prays. We have prayer time with our family, which is when we sing, read the Bible, and pray, together as a family. Or if we're in church, my dad will always pray out loud. That's just how he is. He'll do this thing that I like to call prayer shaming, which essentially is exposing the bad things people have done via prayer. For example, if he knew somebody was cheating on their wife, he'd be like, "Oh, please help Jethro not cheat on his wife anymore." And he'll say it in front of a bunch of people, most of whom probably don't even know that Jethro was out here cheating on his wife. And now he's just exposing him in front of everybody. He'll just casually expose people's wrongdoings via prayer out loud. It's been something we've all been dealing with, like me and my siblings, since we were children. When I was younger, when he would do stuff like that, he would always go down the list, oldest to youngest. And I'm the middle child. During that point, I would always block my ears. I can't hear you. Da 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 da. But then when I got older, I just started going to the bathroom at that point. Let me head out, turn on the fan in the bathroom. Because I just don't want to hear it. I don't. He wouldn't always necessarily go into specifics, but it really sucks when you feel like you're being shamed in front of everybody, even if it's just in front of family. But the thing that's worse is that there have been lots of times that he would do it at church in front of a congregation. Now, we've never had a big church. We've always had a fairly small church. And now it's only just the family. There's literally nobody else who comes to our church besides our family, except, for the occasional person that'll come every now and again. An example of this, back when we had more people in our church, was my brother. When he was younger, I guess he used to sag his pants. I don't even remember, but yeah, he used to sag his pants, and my dad did not like that at all. He basically said in front of a whole congregation, "Oh, my son, he likes to run around in the streets naked."
And I meant every single word I said.
My brother was so mad because first of all, that wasn't even true. That's just such a hyperbolic statement. Also, you're just casually exposing somebody's wrongdoing or something that you see as somebody's wrongdoing in front of other people. As a pastor or as just a church leader, if you feel like somebody's doing something sinful, you could take them aside and say, "Hey, this is going against the Bible. Don't do that." And if you want to pray for them, you can. But when you're doing public prayers, to just casually expose the things people are doing is not okay. And that's not even the only thing he'll expose. There have been times where he would expose people's private situations. Like, one time there was this person who was a guest in our church. She wasn't an actual member of our church. She was just visiting, and he was, doing a public prayer, and he casually just exposed her situation. And she was really upset about that, as she should. At the time, I didn't even see anything wrong with it because my dad is just like that. He'll just casually expose these things, he'll just casually say these things as if he's talking, as if it's no big deal. And it's just like, bruh, you have to be considerate of people's private information. Not everybody wants that stuff blasted. You know, not everybody wants the fact that their mom has cancer told in front of a whole congregation. Some people want to keep things private. It's the fact that he'll just casually put certain things on blast that not everybody knew, because the amount of information that I'll be finding out, I'm just like, whoa, what? Really? Why did you even say that? I didn't need to know that. I mean, interesting, but I didn't need to know that. The last, but certainly not least thing I want to talk about is the fact that my parents, and drum roll please, this isn't even gonna be surprising, but the fact that my parents will shame me for the way I dress. And I feel like it's mostly me. My siblings don't experience this the way I experience this. So my parents will judge how I dress. Like this shirt, for example. The other day I wore this to work, right? I work at a school, if you didn't know. Well, I work at a school and I also work at a clothing store part-time. And I came home wearing this. She was like, oh, you really wore that to work? And I'm just like, oh, here we go. So annoying. With my parents, their idea of modesty is so much more different than my idea of modesty. And if you don't know modesty, it's basically like dressing appropriately. Like not showing too much skin, like you wouldn't show cleavage, or I guess you wouldn't show too much shoulder according to some people. I don't know, I don't care. I'm gonna show shoulder if I want to show shoulder. You wouldn't show too much leg, you wouldn't wear anything too tight, anything too revealing. When it comes to my parents, like our ideas of modesty are very, very, very different. Like me, I'm just like, as long as I have like from here all the way until like a little bit above my knee covered, I'm Gucci. I'm good. Like, but in their mind, they're a lot more old-fashioned. So showing shoulders inappropriate, but I could care less. I'm gonna show my shoulders if I want to, especially in the summer. Certain skirts are inappropriate. Like I wore a skirt that's like a little bit above it, just a little bit above the knee. My mom was like, why are you wearing that short thing? I'm like, what are you even talking about? I remember at one time I tried to wear it to work. Well, I did wear it to work. And she was like, you know they have dress codes over there. I'm like, yes, I'm aware. Like, I'm aware of what I can and can't wear to my own job. You would have thought I was out here wearing booty shorts that were going up my butt. Cheeks all out.
Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon.
The way my parents judge me, the way I dress. And granted, if you dress like that, I'm not trying to come for anybody who dresses like that either. Like, you do you. But I don't dress like that. And one time I was wearing a shirt that literally covers more of my shoulders than this shirt. Like, it was like a thick strap tank top, and it covered a little bit more of my shoulders than this top does, and a pair of jean shorts that goes like literally only an inch above my knee. And my dad had the audacity to say, you look like you work in a bedroom, which I guess is his way of saying you look like a prostitute. I don't understand. Like, first of all, I don't know what prostitutes you be seeing, but I don't know if I'd be able to get that much work if I had that much skin cover as a prostitute. And second, I mean, not that I know anything about prostitutes, but second, the fact that you would really say that to your daughter is ridiculous. That really made me mad. And also, my brother was out here literally dressed almost identical to me, except his shorts were shorter. Like, my brother was wearing swim trunks and his shorts were a little bit shorter, and he was literally wearing a top that covered as much skin as I was. But of course, he goes out like that. Yeah, who cares? But I go out like that. Oh no, you look like you work in a bedroom. I'm like, not to mention, there have been times where I've worn outfits exactly like that, and my dad didn't say a thing. So again, it's that I feel like picking on you today that I'm gonna say something, but other days I'm not gonna say anything. It's really annoying, to say the least. So all in all, what I can say is growing up with strict parents has definitely made me be a lot more secretive about certain things. Like, even things I shouldn't have to be secretive about. Like the fact that I've been in a relationship before. Last year, the end of last year, I was in a relationship. And I didn't tell my parents about that at all. You know, most people would share the fact that they're in a relationship with their parents. But no, not me. I'm just like, yeah, y'all don't need to know anything. My parents make a big deal out of it. And some people might be like, oh my gosh, just tell them. Like, it's not that big of a deal. You're probably just overreacting. No, I'm not. Trust me. If I told you something, you'd be like, for real? No. if I told him, especially since he was an atheist. Yeah, he was an atheist, so that wouldn't have gone down well. We broke up months ago. Whenever I get into my next relationship, probably won't tell them about that either because they're extremely judgmental and I just don't want to have to deal with that shenanigans. I feel like the first time I ever tell my parents about a significant other, it's gonna be what I'm saying. I'm getting married. Come or don't come. Okay, I wouldn't say that, but you know, the fact that I feel the need to hide certain things from my parents comes from the fact that I've been judged for my whole life and shamed for my whole life about minuscule things, or at least things that I feel like I shouldn't have been judged so harshly on. That's all I have for today. If you didn't hate this video, you can like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!